Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, and I'm coming to you with a new episode this week. On this week's episode, we are going to have guest Harsh Vaidya, who is the CEO of WareIQ, and Harsh is actually based in India, and so is WareIQ. And WareIQ is working on building out a distribution infrastructure in India, utilizing micro-fulfillment for e-commerce, different types of organizations and companies to get them closer to consumers and create a better overall distribution network so that they can reach those consumers more closely. So Harsh is going to talk to us about that, talk to us about WareIQ, and talk to us a little bit about the state of distribution in India as well. So Harsh, welcome to the show today. Early morning for you, late night for me, right?
Thanks for the introduction. Great to be part of your podcast and really excited for this.
Definitely happy to have you on. You are officially the farthest guest in the history of the podcast so far. Our last farthest guest was in Ireland, but you've made it further in India. So happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, so good start for the year 2020 for you.
Definitely. Happy New Year to you as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and tell us kind of how you got to the point of starting WareIQ and becoming the CEO there.
Sure. So I'm founder and CEO of WareIQ, which is a technology-enabled fulfillment solution allowing e-commerce brands to offer Amazon Prime-like shipping. So prior to I started WareIQ in India, I used to work with Pitney Bowes in their headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. It's a global technology company providing solutions in shipping, mailing, fulfillment, and returns, working with about 1 million SMB customers and some of the iconic retail and e-commerce brands like Target, eBay, and Macy's. So I spent about 4 years with Pitney Bowes in the areas of broad strategy and growth. And in my last role, I worked as Chief of Staff to Senior Vice President for SMB Solutions. So that was my experience with Pitney Bowes, and prior I joined them, I worked as strategy consultant with a boutique management consulting firm called Zenov, which has its offices in Santa Clara and Bangalore, where I spent quite a few years working with large technology companies in the areas of market entry and growth strategy for APAC market. I'm a chemical engineer by education, and I started my career about a decade back with a firm called Capillary Technologies, which is a retail tech firm backed by marquee investors like Sequoia and Warburg Pincus. So my background has mostly been in various operating roles in the technology business with a focus on e-commerce and retail.
Interesting.
So how I started WareIQ. So while I was working with Pitney Bowes, I was very excited by global e-commerce space in general and the benchmarks set by Amazon for everyone else to follow in terms of service quality. So I studied various global e-commerce fulfillment models and did a lot of deep dive on that. So there are a few statistics which really stood out for me. First was JD.com in China delivers 90% of its parcels within 24 hours, with 60% of them arriving within 12 hours. The second was that Amazon offers 2-day guaranteed delivery for any zip code in a large geography like US. Definitely. And then there was a contrasting view, which was 80% of e-commerce parcels in India reach at a timeline of 7 to 15 days. So Yeah, so this contrasting view was so surprising for me that I decided to investigate the problem further, which leads to such poor fulfillment performance. And at the same time, I had this personal calling to start something of my own. So
Hmm.
I moved back to India a year back, interviewed multiple retailers, direct to consumer brands, online sellers selling on different marketplaces, social commerce channels, interviewed bunch of warehouses and fulfillment companies. And then I decided um, to come up with a business plan and an idea which makes sense to solve at such complex problem. And that's how I came up with the idea of WareIQ.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So you said there that in India, 80% of e-commerce packages were taking 7 to 15 days to deliver. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So that's as per one of the study done by KPMG.
Wow, that's pretty crazy to think about, especially coming from a United States perspective, where, like you said, Amazon is delivering in within 2 days. Sometimes, I mean, one time they delivered some markers to me the same day and a couple hours later. So to imagine 7 to 15 days is pretty different, a big contrast to service levels in other parts of the world. So is that still current state, or is it changing and evolving, and how is that kind of growing, and how are you guys contributing to that?
Yeah, so I think the state of e-commerce and especially e-commerce logistic market is also changing significantly. I'll just give you a lay of the land of how does the current state of distribution looks like in India right now for
Okay.
e-commerce retail logistics specifically. So it's in its very early years. So as per few estimates, in the year 2018, the size of the market was about $1.5 billion. But this is expected to grow over 35% to 50% CAGR, since e-commerce is still about this 2% of the overall retail market. And this is going to grow significantly because the size of the e-commerce in India itself is going to grow significantly, contributed by different macro factors. Like there are about half a billion new users who are going to come online in next few years, driven by penetration of mobile and cheap data, and
Yeah.
then investments from large companies like Walmart, Amazon, and uh, and Reliance, which is India's one of the biggest business conglomerate. So
Okay.
uh, the size of e-commerce retail logistic market is increasing. New investments are coming in so as to build this infrastructure which is geared for pace and can cater to the sophistication required by e-commerce processes. Right now, there are three big players who address this particular market segment. So first being the traditional third-party logistic companies. So
Okay.
these were the 3PL companies who would typically deal with the B2B business flows. And with the advent of e-commerce, all of these larger 3PL companies have opened up a new business unit catering to retail logistic market, which is very technology intensive. Right now, they take about 25 percentage of the market share.
Okay.
Then the second player who addresses this space are the capital logistics arm of marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart, which is owned by Walmart now. They
Okay.
move about 50 percentage of the volumes, since the marketplaces drive about 70 percentage of e-commerce sales. The most of the volumes go through these marketplaces themselves, and they created their own logistic arms. So Amazon has its Amazon Transport Services. Flipkart and its group of company work with a in-house firm called eCart. So these are the bigger players, and then in last few years, there is the investment that have gone in to come up with e-commerce focused retail logistic companies. So there are investment that have gone from SoftBank and Alibaba and a lot of the big investment firms to create this space. The biggest player in this market is delivery, and that is where our head of operations also comes in. So he was director at delivery before, and he's setting up our entire logistics and operation process. So
Interesting.
in last 5 years, this space is also picking up, and the e-commerce focused retail logistic companies are now taking up about 25 percentage of the market share. So that's how the general lay of the land is right now. But as you pointed out, I think there are some unique challenges with respect to India right now and some unique opportunities as well. So the challenges I can touch upon why the fulfillment service levels are so poor from the statistic standpoint as you
Hmm.
compare with the US geography. And there are certain interesting opportunities that I can also spend some time upon, and how some of the companies like Walmart and Amazon are approaching those unique opportunities to solve for the supply chain in India.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think that I mean, one thing for me, from I guess my little knowledge of India, I've never been to India, but I've worked with some people that have been in India. One question I have, I mean, when we talk about I guess the longer service level and the amount of days it's taking, one thing that comes to mind is I've heard of, I guess, the traffic there. So I'm wondering, is the transportation infrastructure, is that a factor and something that is being worked on to improve those service levels?
I think that is accurate. And the investments in the logistics space as a
Hmm.
percentage of GDP were also fairly low. Now they have increased, and there are more focused investments that have gone into building logistic parks and this whole infrastructure required for quicker movement of goods. So I think that is going to improve in next few years. Um, but specifically from the challenges standpoint, if I look at the retail logistic industry, so unlike US market where say UPS, USPS, and FedEx would contribute to over 90% of the e-commerce parcels moving in the US, the Indian market is highly fragmented. So top three third-party logistic companies who move the parcels contribute only 30% of the volumes. So there is bunch of regional and the local players who you would have to interact with if you have to address a particular geography in moving the parcel. So there is no one-stop shop. While in the
Interesting.
case of US, I could even the general way of talking was that can you FedEx me that particular parcel or something like that.
Yeah.
There's no such equivalent in India right now because there is no one person to go to who can cater everywhere. I think
Hmm.
the network is fragmented right now, which has its set of challenges in having a consistent service quality to all the zip codes.
Interesting. So do you think, I guess two questions. So do you think that that's one of the reasons that you mentioned Walmart has Walmart transport, I think you said there. Do you think that's one of the reasons they've done that? And do you think that that means that there is an opportunity for somebody to come in and be that player in the logistics space, to be like that one-stop shop, like you mentioned, like FedEx or something like that?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
So I think on your question related to why the large marketplaces have their own captive arms, I think in the early years of e-commerce is fairly new in India.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 10 years old. It started with primarily Flipkart as one big company. And in their early years, they banked upon the traditional third-party logistic companies to move the parcels. And the service levels were not that great, and the consumer experience was taking a huge hit. So that's the reason they invest. They spend most of their investment in building this fulfillment infrastructure, so that they have more predictability in delivering the parcels at a higher NPS scores. So because fulfillment is a very critical piece, so a lot of these companies finally insourced most of these parcels internally. From an opportunity standpoint, I think there uh, there is really a need of a player in the market who can really provide that reliable infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
and 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 speed is of a critical factor because the consumer expectations are getting to a point that customers require the parcel same day, next day, or at least guaranteed 2 day.
Yeah.
So a lot of the brands who are Shopify stores or direct to consumer brands in India, and the reason they haven't been able to pick up as big as there are multiple unicorns in the US market, just purely operating on their own channel. That story hasn't replicated over here. The reason being, the fulfillment infrastructure is broken. You can generate a lot of demand, but if the parcel reaches you in about 8 to 10 days, the consumers go and cancel the orders, or
Right.
there would be no repeat purchase because their first experience was bad. So
Right.
fulfillment is a very critical piece for the whole e-commerce economy to really catch up. So yeah, to address your question, there is definitely of the need of this reliable infrastructure, and that's a space where IQ wishes to address.
Interesting. So I have a question actually based on that. So you're talking about the customer expectation, service level expectations, and then the customer reaction when you mentioned 8 to 10 days to get a package. Now with the service level, like you mentioned before, being 7 to 15 days to get an e-commerce package, what is the consumer expectation in India? So like, what does the consumer in India actually expect as a service level now? Are they looking for the 2 day, or I mean, to them right now, if they're getting 7 to 15 days, I mean, 4 or 5 day would probably be a big improvement to them. What is the actual expectation right now?
Uh, so right now, as per the market share, I think Amazon is still the biggest player from
Hmm.
the number of volumes that they move. And Amazon service quality is fairly good in India. I
Okay.
think their average, at least I live in a metro city, so most of the metros and some of the top cities which drive core of the demand of the e-commerce in India.
Okay.
Um, for most of the goods, top selling goods, you get an option of guaranteed 2 day delivery. You can also get next day delivery for a lot of products. So Amazon in India has set a very good service quality standards as well. So they came here in the year 2013 and have
Hmm.
spent I think about over $5 billion and above on the supply chain. They have about more than 33 distribution centers, fulfillment centers, and
Oh wow.
multiple dark stores closer to the urban catchment areas for the Amazon Prime deliveries.
Mhm.
So Amazon is even in India is setting the benchmark for everyone else to follow.
Yeah, and I see they're setting it in a big way. It sounds like that's a huge improvement from 7 to 15 days. So I think that the smaller companies then I'm sure are kind of struggling a little bit to keep up. Like you said, taking 8 to 10 days to deliver e-commerce packages, not really helping them to move. So now WareIQ is really that's where you guys come in, right? Is to kind of fill that gap for those smaller e-commerce companies to be able to provide a faster service level, correct?
Yeah, that is right. And also wanted to touch upon another important point.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening in last few years? That uh, there is a unique opportunity in the Indian market. That opportunity being that the urban centers which drive core of the e-commerce demands, they
Mm-hmm.
are in proximity with a lot of these mom and pop stores which are very close to all of these catchments, which is a unique differentiation if we compare with US market where the residential uh, uh, residential space would be a little far off from the commercial street or the commercial market.
Right.
In India, the mom and pop stores and the departmental stores, they're fairly close. They almost merge together.
Okay.
So uh, Walmart started with this model called extended delivery network, where they move about, as per the recent public data that I saw, was that about 60 to 70 percentage of the e-commerce orders for Myntra, which is one of the fashion arms, uh, part of their entity. 70% of their parcels are being delivered through these mom and pop stores for the last mile, um, which is significantly improving their service levels. So I think even they are getting close to the Amazon's service level KPIs. Amazon themselves have forged partnerships with multiple retail chains in India, so as to get closer to the customers and these stores would act as mini fulfillment centers where the picking and packing would be happening.
Okay.
And one of the biggest pioneer in this space is Reliance. So Reliance is a big business conglomerate in India.
Mhm.
They are soon going to launch their e-commerce portal. They have this thing called New Commerce Platform, where they are connecting about 30 million small and medium businesses in India, whose outlet would act like a mini fulfillment center, where if you place an order of a, say, a white T-shirt or something for a specific brand, and
Okay.
their engine will locate which is the nearest store holding that particular inventory, and the last mile delivery would be scheduled from that. So there's a fair bit of sophistication that is happening on this front, where uh, companies are trying to leverage the existing fulfillment model,
Mhm.
existing store network, which can act as the fulfillment space. So, as a company, WareIQ, since we are solving the entire fulfillment problem, there are two approaches that we are taking to the market. First is, as you rightly pointed out, we are targeting small to medium size e-commerce brands in India who
Okay.
don't have access to that distribution network of their own. They are largely operating from a single node, which is their home office,
Mhm.
or the good is shipped directly from a manufacturer or a supplier location in a drop shipping model.
Right.
So these companies, since they are following a single node distribution for a very large and complex geography like India, their shipping timelines and costs significantly jump up when it comes to uh, zonal areas which are very far off from their core center. So
Right.
we give them access uh, to a network of fulfillment centers, which ensures that most of their orders, about 90% of their orders, fall under Zone A or Zone B, which are lower rates as compared to the national shipping that they are doing right now. So that is the on-demand AWS like logistic infra that we are offering to a small brand which don't have that network. The second opportunity is for the large retail chains who already have built a very large store network over a period of years, and before setting up their own warehouses, they want to ensure that they are maxing out their existing capacity.
Okay.
So this is the omni-channel theme that if I place an order on their website, there has to be a technology system which intelligently identifies which is the store that holds that inventory, communicates to the store manager who processes and gets the parcel ready as per the cutoff time, where the last mile delivery guy, someone equivalent of a Uber Rush in US, can pick up and deliver the parcel to the customer.
Mhm.
And in this whole process, the click to door timeline should be within a day, much like Amazon Prime. So we are also playing in this space and currently doing some pilot with a retail, one of the biggest retail chain in India. So I think in a month's time I should have good results to report on this front as well.
Wow, I hope you do too. So it's pretty interesting. I think what's interesting when you said there in the beginning, you're talking about the utilizing these mom and pop stores as micro and mini fulfillment centers. I think that's pretty interesting because it's a little bit of a contrast to what kind of happened with e-commerce in the United States, where e-commerce eventually, in a lot of cases, kind of pushed these mom and pop stores out of business because they provided more convenience from people ordering online, but
Yeah.
they were not fulfilling from mom and pop stores. And mom and pop stores eventually they needed to get on e-commerce to be able to continue to succeed. But it sounds like here, what you guys are doing is, I guess, because of the infrastructure and the way things are in India, is sounds like you guys are actually giving a chance for the mom and pop stores to grow their business more, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is fairly accurate. In the
Hmm.
US, I think the closest example of something similar would be Target. So I
Okay.
think from last I heard from the Target's earnings call was that they do about 70% of their online orders are fulfilled by the Target location. So the
Right.
in-store fulfillment share is about 70%, which to me was a significantly high number.
Mm.
And then Nike has also over a period of years have invested significantly as they moved away from Amazon. that they are going to utilize their store network to fulfill the orders and take advantage of these strategic locations in the supply chain. So these two examples really stood out for me in the US market.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that's kind of the new trend, and it's interesting that you guys are jumping on that, I guess, so early in the game for e-commerce in India, whereas here in the United States, we're just like kind of now getting to that point where fulfillment from local stores is becoming more important, as there's such a focus on last mile delivery, and getting the product as close to the customer as possible. So I think you guys are actually going to be a little bit ahead of the game in e-commerce in India. Now, I wanted to ask you about actually building out the distribution network, because India is very highly populated. There's a lot of people there, and it's a large country as well, continent. So with such a large population, how do you start to determine where the best locations and regions are to kind of focus your efforts as you're growing?
Yeah. So as the phase one of the growth, since we are a startup and we cannot have a very quick access right away, what we did is for most of the brands that we work with right now and the ones which we are in the pipeline with, we analyze their historical data to identify which are the zip codes which drive most of their demand. So for most of the companies that we work with, about 70% of their orders still comes from the top metros, and tier 2 city orders are picking up, but still they constituted about 30% of the from the volume standpoint. So we focus on this core of the market. So right now, from a network building standpoint, we ensure that our fulfillment positions are in a way that at least this um, the metro orders, which constitute about 70 to 80% of volumes for most of the Shopify-driven brands or the online D2C brands, are addressed within a time frame of next day delivery. Uh, so that's how we went about approaching this. So the 3PL network that we have onboarded into our platform right now are we are currently operational in 4 metro cities in India.
Okay.
However, from the network that we have onboarded, we have about 10 fulfillment centers across these metro cities, where any brand who wants to get access to a fulfillment, once they sign contract with us, they can work with us in an on-demand basis without getting into a complex contract model with a 1 year contract and
Okay.
3 months of security deposit and the typical model that you have to work with warehousing companies. You don't really have to work with that. You just sign a contract with us and you can get access to all of these 10 fulfillment centers that we have onboarded right now.
Mm-hmm.
As we get a little bit more traction, we want to also get into tier 2 cities where the growth of the volumes are going to come in the next 5 years.
Right.
At this point, we are a little bit focused more on the metros since it is our very first phase of the growth. And there are some requests that have come in to also operate some of these smaller dark stores, which are closer to the urban centers, which act as the distribution points and
Okay.
can also hold inventory for some quick moving products. So if we really execute this, I think with that dark store model, we should be able to really function like Amazon Prime, where the quick moving products are held up over there. We
Mm-hmm.
do quick replenishment from these mother warehouses, and uh, the customer, whenever goes to the Shopify stores, he can really see that if he orders by 3 p.m., the order can be delivered same day. If it crosses the timeline of say 6 p.m., it will be delivered next day. So something like that.
Yeah.
So urban dark store model is something which is going to be the phase two, which we are going to operate on our own. At this point, we have gone about building the network for the tier one cities, which are driving most of the demand. And as we get a little bit more traction, we'll go to tier two. But for the large retail, we are already utilizing their existing store network, which is also operational in tier two cities and tier three cities. So we use these locations as the pickup point, and our shipping engine orchestrates the shipping between the the store location to the customer location, and we identify the right partner who can deliver this in the committed timeline.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think it's an interesting plan how you laid it out, and I see that you said in 5 years you're expecting that growth to come in those tier two cities. I think you're referring to. So how do you see, since e-commerce now is, you said, only about 10 years old in India, it's fairly young. How do you see it growing over the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, you think there's going to be some serious growth, it sounds like, in tier two, if that's your 5 year plan. So what do you see as the state of e-commerce, I guess, in 5 years from now and 10 years from now?
Yeah, I think 10 years would be very far off, but the 5 year plan, I think, based on all the analyst estimates, it's really jumping up. There are some really big macro trends in India. So I think India has the cheapest mobile internet data anywhere in the world.
Really?
That has caught up, and the Android phones uh, are accessible, and there is this whole um, access to this infrastructure which has really jumped up in last few years, and this is going to grow significantly. So there are estimates that over a half a billion, 500 million new users are going to come online in next
Wow.
5 to 6 years in India. So uh, there is this whole infrastructure that has to be built
Hmm.
uh, because there are new users coming online, and they're going to use different models of e-commerce. So right now, India's e-commerce was still focused towards Flipkart and Amazon. So these marketplaces where 70% of their orders are currently um, moving from. But there are new models which are coming up.
Okay.
Social commerce is picking up in a very big way,
Hmm.
where WhatsApp is almost like a operating system for a regular Indian. They do everything on WhatsApp, and the
Really?
commerce through WhatsApp is picking up significantly. That is expected to grow further. There are multiple commerce platforms like Shopify, which have made
Hmm.
very easy for someone to start a business of their own, and the marketing stack is uh, is fairly solved for in acquiring customers at at, at, at a cheap cost of acquisition.
Yeah.
The payments problem is solved in India. There is a UPI, which is United a payment gateway in India, which is really smoothened up of making digital payments. It's the fulfillment infrastructure which is the last leg, where the whole demand comes up, the commerce platform is built up, payments is very smooth. But this fulfillment infrastructure needs to be really smoothened out for the entire experience, so that this new value that is going to be created in the next few years from a demand standpoint is also captured. So e-commerce is going to grow big, the demand is going to grow big, but
Hmm.
the fulfillment infrastructure to really capture that demand is going to be an important focus, where a lot of investments are going to go in, and as a company our focus is going to be in the next few 5 years.
Interesting. So it sounds like you guys are really kind of in there at the right time to take advantage of the opportunity. It sounds like there's still a lot of opportunity to be had. So if anybody's listening that's interested in some kind of opportunity in e-commerce, it sounds like there is opportunity in India, definitely. Um, Also wanted to ask you too, as well, as you're talking about how you're utilizing these stores, local stores, as mini fulfillment centers as well. When you refer to like the mom and pop stores, now where are they on a technology standpoint, and is there technology that you have to implement into their business for them to be able to fulfill for these different other businesses?
Yeah, so I think there is investment that is required for a
Mm-hmm.
mom and pop store to integrate them with the supply chain. So right now, from our company standpoint, we are working with large retail chains who already have that basic level of technology built into this. So we are not currently operating in the mom and pop store model. We are working with large departmental stores who
Okay.
already are having that point of sale system, and a panel where the store manager can get a view of the orders that needs to be processed on that particular day. But I can give you a view of how other companies are approaching this mom and pop store model. So most of these mom and pop stores, they are being provided with an Android application.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look up something which is very interesting. There is a program called I Have Space program by Amazon,
I
where
have
they have
space.
given this.
Okay.
Yeah, so they give this mobile application to a lot of these mom and pop store and that. So the Amazon delivers the
Mm.
parcels to their outlets, and they just need to keep a warehouse that particular set of parcel in their stores if they have a particular space in their store, and they themselves have to make the last mile delivery as well and update that particular status in the application. So it's a very lightweight Android application which a lot of these small mom and pop stores have, and similarly, even Walmart has provided these mobile application to these stores where they keep
Mm.
a log of all the deliveries that they received, and they deliver it themselves and update the status of it. That these were the parcel out of the
Interesting.
10 parcels that was provided to them, uh, 8 were delivered. For 2, there was a return because customer was not at home, and there are different other scenarios. It's
Yeah.
a very lightweight mobile application. They haven't gone very heavy with respect to providing them with a square like point of sale or any of that infrastructure.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting to see, and it's interesting to talk to you because it sounds like e-commerce is in such a, I guess, beginning stage. Still saying it's just 10 years old. I mean, 10 years is a long time, but when you think about something like that, and you think about how it's grown in other places like the United States, 10 years is just a short time, and it sounds like there's so much space to grow, especially as you talk about those users getting online and being able and interacting more and purchasing more through e-commerce platforms. I think it's going to be a huge boom probably in India to the economy in ways, and it's going to create new business opportunities for a lot of people. So I think it's really great, and I love that you guys are kind of bridging that gap
Yeah,
for some
yeah.
people and those smaller companies to be able to reach out to different regions that maybe they couldn't before. So it's really great thing. So where can people find out more about Where IQ?
Yeah. So currently we just have a small landing page. It's www.wareiq.com. In next few months, we intend to do a little bit more product marketing, getting everyone a view of our platform, and some more case studies on what we have learned implementing our solution with the small retail brands and large customers. So I think uh, in the next few months there will be more case studies and videos of our material. Right now we are live on our website for anyone to get more understanding on what we're doing.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that we should know about Where IQ before we wrap up here?
No, I think we touched upon all of these the important pieces. But from our business model standpoint, I think
Hmm.
while we have this technology platform which solves for this fulfillment and everything. Another important technology from a technology standpoint, uh, we have built out this whole shipping engine which connects to all of the prominent third-party logistic companies and same-day courier companies. So while you can give your inventory to us for storage and fulfillment.
Hmm.
You don't need to work with two other software companies to manage your orders or inventory or manage shipping. Everything is integrated into one. So our vision is to act like one operating software for fulfillment. So you give inventory to us and we distribute it across our fulfillment centers and deliver it last mile. In our platform, you can do the returns management, cash on delivery management, and all the post shipping workflows as well. So that's our vision, and it is
Hmm.
very account management driven as well. So while there is fulfillment, there is this shipping platform, and then there is account manager who acts like extension of your team
Okay.
to manage your entire retail operations in a regular run of a day. You have multiple escalations and exception managements that need to happen. So we have automated a lot of these cases with machine learning and AI, but there is
Hmm.
also uh, a lot of human intervention that is required because logistics is still a very people intensive business.
Definitely.
So uh, our vision is to act like this fulfillment one stop fulfillment platform, and we have invested in technology and operational processes to get that completely.
Great, great. And I love that you guys are making it into the full suite. So it really is kind of like that that partner that you need, especially for that person that you're talking about that's starting their Shopify shop out of their house or their home office or something like that. So you really are like that partner that somebody needs in the beginning to really get. Now, like, they have this product, people want to buy it, and then the question is like, oh, how do I get the product to the person, right? So that's where you guys step in, and I think that's huge, and I think that's going to be, I mean, it's going to get even bigger. I'm sure already it's a big deal, but I think it's going to get even bigger as more people start to get into e-commerce, not only from a consumer standpoint, but from starting business standpoint, e-commerce businesses in India. So I think you guys are really doing a great thing. And we'll post more information about WareIQ on thenewwarehouse.com.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.